might be good to go.
I hope so.
Good, good, nice, nice. It doesn't have to be perfect, but pretty good. Okay, so here's how it works, guys, for anyone who's wondering what on earth I'm doing or why I'm streaming. Pretty much, I'm trying to both support the community and get my Patreon off the ground more. So what I'm going to do is each month, depending on how many content consumers I have, which are the people who are sub to my Patreon, I will do a free lesson giveaway. Right now, I have 243. My goal is 250. If I hit 250 by September 1st, I'm going to do another one of these in September. If I get more than that, since it's pretty hard for me to make time for all this, I can consider doing more. I was thinking somewhere in the realm of if I get, maybe 350 or so, I can start doing 2 every month, something like that. Ashkon was the lucky winner, which was really funny. Yeah, I thought that's
I'm
cool.
so hyped about this.
First, it was actually my friend Greg who's also from NorCal, but he doesn't play Smash that seriously, so I thought that would not be a reasonable. It would also seem rigged since he's my friend. But
Damn, are we not friends, Sammy?
he is my college roommate of many years, is what I should say.
Is this the person that you played at Marble when you did the qualifier?
No, this was my other roommate. I have three roommates, I guess, from college. But yeah, so if anyone has any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll wait maybe 20, 30 seconds. Otherwise, me and Ashkon can start. So Ashkon, have you watched any of my first lesson videos with anyone?
I've skimmed some, but honestly haven't watched a full one yet.
Okay, that's totally fine. Just wanted to
Yeah.
know if you have any idea what would be happening. So essentially, what I typically do is I try to gear the lesson towards, helping the student improve long term, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means two things. One, you should kind of treat the lesson as an opportunity to learn anything you want. I kind of tell people you have 1 hour to learn literally anything you want about Melee. What do you choose to learn? So that part's kind of on you. The part that's on me is I will probably watch this video for more than, I'm not going to pause it as soon as I see something I don't like, because I want to get an overall feel for your play and decide, oh wait, maybe this thing you messed up 5 times is a lot more important than the thing we just saw you mess up at the beginning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So what I'll ask you to do, and the stream to do, is I'm going to hit play on this video, and I just want you to watch it with me. I'm going to watch it silently for maybe about 2 stocks. That's what I always do the very first time I watch someone, so that I can kind of prioritize what I think the issues are. And then I'm going to ask you what you think, of your play, what you could have done better, stuff like that. Okay. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so next thing is, can you see the video playing in pretty reasonable quality on my screen right now?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, wonderful. So
should I just be talking my thoughts right now?
I'd prefer you do them in your own head, because I'm also going to do a string of my thoughts.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, that's fine.
So everything's playing fine. I can start from the beginning?
Yeah.
Oh, the stream says it's slideshowing.
It's a little slideshowy, actually.
That is problematic. I wonder what I can do about that before I start, because I definitely don't want this to be slideshowy. Turn off webcam. I don't feel like that should... Maybe I can lower the bitrate a little. The bitrate's currently on a very... It doesn't say I've dropped any frames.
What is your frame rate set at?
My frame rate? I don't know what it's set to, but it currently says 0 drop frames. So it doesn't seem that I'm dropping frames. I can lower the output.
It's even a little choppy on my end.
Interesting. It's just the YouTube video? The YouTube video... I mean, it looks fine to me when I'm watching it. The webcam lag too. Ashkon's. This is the whole stream. Interesting. I want to solve this before we really get started.
So. Yeah, it's lagging super hard for me now.
Oh, interesting. Maybe my internet can't simultaneously screen share and stream, but I would imagine that I should be able to.
Let's think.
Yeah.
It could be the overall processing.
It could
what's happening.
I could lower the bitrate, but I don't think that's the problem. It's only when the video is running. Interesting. Huh, I did not foresee this problem. Because normally when I stream, it's fine, and normally when I screen share, it's not. I could use my circle, Damien. You are right. Hey, maybe I'll try it. Hey, not a bad idea. This is what I normally do in lessons anyway, so you'll get more of an authentic experience.
How are you screen this?
Close your stream tab. Oh, wait, maybe it's just that this is open? Okay. How does this look, guys? Is this lagging, or is it acceptable?
A little bit, but it's better. Sometimes it has some small.
Yeah, I mean, the video...
I don't think I can... Why don't I just use the My Circle, and then
that's what...
There's no point for you to screen share.
Yeah, I agree.
And you don't unnecessarily.
Here, stop sharing your screen. Not better. Interesting.
Can you...
Why would I not be able to stream?
Oh, it's slideshowy. Oh, it cleaned up really fast now.
Oh?
There we go. It's real clean now.
Okay. We're doing My Circle then. It's been decided.
Okay,
We're getting a classic Drugged Fox lesson. This is how it goes. Wonderful. Okay. Sorry about the delay, boys and girls. Yeah, I guess screen share plus streaming is just not the combo. Okay, so Ashkon, is this playing for you? Can you see it well?
It says loading right now.
Okay, so you can click the middle of the video and it should start playing.
Oh yeah, okay, it started.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to go back to the beginning, and then we're going to watch silently together as an entire stream chat. Sound good? Okay, cool. Let's do it. Okay, I'll probably just watch one more stock, because that stock took a while. Was this on NetPlay?
No, this is a tournament set.
Okay, nice. Okay, let's stop there then. So, what do you think? You've watched the same two stocks I did, so give me your thoughts.
Well, I think like one thing is that a lot of my punish game versus Sheik is really underdeveloped.
Okay,
so like
that's a great point.
Places where I can keep hitting Sheik, especially like the start, like I get an up tilt around like 16%. I don't get any follow up.
So what we're gonna do then is, I want to go through all of your thoughts, but just as an idea, do you have any clue why your punish game is not very good for Sheik?
Any clue why? I can make some guesses. Okay. Is that I think I don't know. I feel like sometimes I just don't like approach as much as I should versus Sheik, and like keep going forward.
Well, no, like, I'm saying, why isn't your punish game better?
I just haven't labbed it out.
Okay, so you haven't labbed it out. Spaces. So, that's a very straightforward answer. At least it's very honest, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I've been focusing a lot on just like practicing for the Spacey matchup and kind of neglecting other ones.
Okay, well that's a great answer. But sometimes all that sometimes someone needs to hear is like when they say it out loud to someone else that like gives them what they need to go work on it, right?
Yeah.
Because if you can say to my face, yeah, I haven't even labbed it out. I don't know the percents. I don't know when to read jumps, when to combo. It's like, well, obviously you're not going to have a very good punish game, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So, go ahead.
I was gonna say in this set in particular, I feel like after 2 minutes in the set, I'm just like, wait a second, why am I playing like this? And then I just start like playing the matchup a lot better.
Oh, interesting.
In this game in
So that's
particular.
something else to think about. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, it's something I wanted to talk about, which is like sometimes I feel like my brain isn't working properly, and then I like start actually playing melee, and then I like break out of that like flow
Okay, so
sometimes.
does that regularly happen in tournament sets, friendlies? Does it change within 2 minutes? Is it random how long it takes to change? You know.
I think it's pretty random. I think I've been pretty conscious about my play more lately, and actually like practicing and thinking about the game,
Mm-hmm.
and like trying to play more seriously in tournament. Um, so I
But
think it's been getting better.
okay, it's
Like
been
I've been,
getting better, but it still feels pretty random.
yeah. I
Okay.
think there's some ideas I have, but I'm still trying to figure
Can
them
you
out.
identify any like consistent feeling you have when it goes from the feeling of what am I doing to that feeling of like clarity, I guess, where you feel like you know what you're doing? Are there
Oh, it's
any
like autopilot. Like I'll have like some thoughts, but then I'll go like full autopilot, and then I'm like, wait, I should not be autopiloting
Okay,
this
so
much.
you
It's
just
like,
feel like you go from autopiloting to consciously thinking?
yeah, and like trying to play more patiently and things like that.
Okay, so I have some advice for that then, but we'll get to that later. So,
Yeah,
what else do you think? So, your punish game, not so great. You said you felt like you were autopiloting a lot of the times and maybe not playing so patiently, right?
yeah. I think like sometimes like I also like F smash, like do the classic bad mark things, or
Sure.
like um, there's some other things where it's like I feel like my spacing could be a lot better with
Mm-hmm.
like some aerials or tilts. Like there's a couple of times I do down tilts, and it's like I'm like almost hilting him basically.
Yeah, I did see that. So the forward smashes, I don't feel like we really saw too much of, right?
Hmm.
But the
Yeah.
spacing I could see. Okay. Um.
I think there's a couple of times where like I just don't grab ledge,
Uh huh.
and like grabbing ledge, removing the option, like especially when Sheik is like maybe lower.
Okay, that's a good point too. Do you have any other thoughts?
DI is probably not as good as it could be on the grabs.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Mm-hmm.
haven't really thought about like the best DI for getting out of like Sheik's grab combos on Marth, which are pretty strong.
Sure, sure. Um, okay. So does that kind of summarize everything you think about those two stocks, or do you have anything else you want to
I
add?
also think I have a habit to sit and shield a lot more than I need to,
Ah,
and like
interesting. Okay,
being a little afraid of getting hit.
cool. So I think all of those thoughts are pretty much accurate, or things that happened, or things that you would need to improve on. So now I guess I'll show you the difference in how I think about it versus how you were thinking about it. So
Hmm.
my major thought about all of those things is that all of them have a reason, right?
Hmm.
So you might tell me my spacing's bad. You might tell me I held shield too long, right?
Yeah.
I might say, I might take a step back and say, what made you want to down tilt there? Or what made you want to shield there? And I think what you'll realize is, for example, in the context of the down tilt, I don't think it's that your spacing is bad. I think it's something about your perception of the situation beforehand was bad. For example, maybe you
Hmm.
didn't react to something, or maybe you didn't take an option into account. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Similarly, with the holding shield, uh, let's just talk about that in a general notion, see if you can figure this out. If someone's just kind of holding shield and getting hit, it could be a bad habit, but maybe it could be that you weren't aware enough of the situation. So maybe you held shield by default, and then you just didn't react to the situation fast enough to change anything.
Hmm.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you kind of see how, like, you might feel like this is a bad habit or my spacing is bad, but the root of the problem could actually be somewhere completely different?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So I'm glad it makes sense, because I think this is a very, very important concept for improvement. That oftentimes you have to be specific about why something's going wrong. So things like, this is a bad habit of mine, is almost never the reason for something. Or, oh, my spacing's just not good. That might be the explanation for, let's say a Fox is recovering and you tried to time a forward smash and you didn't have a good concept of, him falling
Hmm.
or something. But even then, you see that's not really the spacing. It might be, I don't understand Fox's up B that well, right?
Yeah.
So really, spacing or bad habits aren't usually the root cause of a problem. Does
Hmm.
this make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Cool. So going back to other things I noticed, so that's kind of me talking about what you noticed. If you
Hmm.
want me to talk about what I noticed, I felt like generally there were specific situations you did really well in, and other situations where stuff you did kind of didn't make sense at all. Did you get that just at all watching or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can imagine that.
No, I mean, so there were times where it's like
I don't have like a game plan necessarily.
Aha! So that's what I wanted to get you to. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
So you remember that very first problem you told me about where you're like, yeah, it kind of feels like random if I'm playing well or not, or it takes me time to get into it?
Yeah.
So how do we fix that? You just answered it. And this whole talk I've been doing has been trying to get you to loop back around to the real answer, which is you don't have a game plan.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what a game plan even is. Can you explain to me what you think a game plan is in your words?
Like, in my idea, like a game plan is kind of like, for some matchups I have them where I have like, it's almost like a set of rules where I set for myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to recognize these situations where you should follow these rules. Like, I don't know, like one thing I think about is like trying to actively like being like CCing at lower percents for Sheik, especially like when Sheik is also at lower percent.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I can get like a CC, I can get a grab into like things like that.
Yeah.
Or like, sorry, that was really loud.
Okay, continue.
I closed my window.
Yeah, no problem. They heard the melee police are coming.
But I feel like game plans is like trying to recognize situations and capitalize on them.
Okay.
Like putting yourself in a situation that you feel comfortable and like kind of executing from there.
So
like making it like a one player.
Yeah, so I agree with the gist of what you're saying, but let's transform it a bit. So the most important thing I think that you said that's really the key to takeaway is that your game plan, if I had to give a definition. So did you notice that your definition was kind of like a description of different aspects?
Yeah.
So you like describe different aspects of what it means to have a game plan. But what we're going to do is just have a strict definition of it. So in my mind, a game plan is just, well, one, I think it's actually not accurate to say you don't have a game plan. I think, one, everyone has a game plan. And that game plan is just their set of responses to how they recognize situations. So what I mean by that is everyone has a game plan. Literally everyone. Like if we watched you fight a Sheik a million times, I think when we got the same situations to happen, I guarantee you would respond in a set of ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you're not going to actually respond randomly. If we put you in the exact same situation, you'll respond within 2 to 3 options, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not that you don't have a game plan. It's just that your game plan's extremely underdeveloped. And maybe it's underdeveloped to the point where you don't feel like you have one. But at the end of the day, what we really want to do is do exactly what you said, which is we're going to take situations, make sure you can recognize them, and then have a plan for them. And you kind of worded it in the way of like an aggressive, like, I will do it when I have advantage. But you can even have a game plan for defensive scenarios too, right? And neutral scenarios and edgeguard scenarios, etc., right? So what we're going to do is I want you to start thinking about the game in the context of, here is a scenario I find myself in often. What are my answers to it? Make sense?
Yeah.
So,
that makes sense.
So now we've kind of solved, I think, the autopilot problem, because I think your issue is that because you don't feel like you have a solidified game plan, you'll probably kind of stumble about until things kind of feel good, and then you can feel like, okay, now I'm thinking. But if you had those thoughts already consciously like ingrained within you, you'd have a higher like baseline or starting point. Does this make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. So the last thing I noticed that I think we didn't get to talk about is that you, and this is kind of what I was getting at, there are some situations where you clearly know them and you did a great thing. But when something either unexpected happened or something where you messed up or you get hit, a lot of the times your next action would just no longer make sense at all. So I think that in these, what most people would call scrambles, you frequently floundered around. You would just attack randomly or not even aim your move, or probably what's happening is you're not even looking at the other character, because what tends to happen is when someone gets hit, especially players that are less experienced, they look at their own character, and then because they're looking at their own character, they have nothing to react to anymore, so they just do something random. Does this make sense too?
Yeah, it's something I like noticed. Like if I like miss an aerial, I'll like panic and just like do the same thing exactly over again. Like, miss up tilt, like double up tilt.
So we're seeing a lot of panicking, a lot of uncertainty, and I actually think that for the scenarios where you had a clear plan, your gameplay was pretty good and it all made sense. It was just that as soon as something happened that kind of took you away from the set of options you're comfortable with, you would do something that no longer made sense.
Yeah. And then I feel like maybe like sometimes like it takes a second to like get back in that comfortable
Yeah,
state.
exactly. And then, by then, especially if you're fighting someone good, you've already lost your stock.
Yeah.
Yep. But we're going to fix that because what you're going to do is break down these situations, figure out what aspects of it could have helped you recognize it faster, and then we can brainstorm some solutions to them.
Okay.
Cool. Random thought. What time did we start this? About 9:55. Okay, cool. Just so I kind of know where we're at. So, is this video playing for you from the beginning?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the beginning.
It's at 6:23 right now. Sorry.
Okay.
Now it's at the beginning.
Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to the beginning in a second, and we're going to analyze this whole match only in the context of the things we discussed. Okay, we're not going to talk about it in any other perspectives. And I think we can apply these perspectives to the match, and you'll see how a lot of it now makes more sense going forward. Okay, so let's talk about even the first thing. So you did a nair. Well, you did a bunch of stuff that all was pretty fine, I'd say. You nared, held shield, and then grabbed, right?
Yeah.
So what was the Sheik doing while you were nairing?
What was the Sheik doing?
Yeah, just looking at the Sheik. So let's watch it again.
Trying just did like an empty jump.
Yeah, so the Sheik was jumping, right? So if you could play this back and think to yourself, okay, I see Sheik jumping while I'm landing from my nair. Like, how do you view that situation? What do you wish you did?
What do I wish I did if I view Sheik doing that?
Yeah, so Sheik's jumping while you're landing.
I feel like at that percent, like I just want to get to the ground faster, like fastball.
Yeah, so you're landing pretty much. Yeah, you've already committed to landing. So what about once you've landed? Do you think shielding was good? Do you think grabbing was good?
I think grabbing was good at this percentage, or maybe like another aerial, but I'm not too sure on that part.
Let's be specific then. So again, you're landing, Sheik is jumping.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I guess like a tilt.
Okay, you wish you instantly tilted? I mean, maybe, but I'd say at 0, that's not too good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so see, this is how so do you see how, like, once we introduce right, a really specific scenario, you're like, shit, wait, what do I do, right?
I'm going to go all in on grab.
Okay, so grab. Okay, yeah. But let's talk about grab then.
Yeah.
What made it a decent idea to grab here?
A decent idea to grab here?
Why was it, why do you think grab's a good option?
I feel more comfortable in the center of the stage where there's no platforms above, because like you can get that first up tilt.
Yeah, but that's not really an explanation for whether or not the grab will hit, right? Because if you're not even considering whether or not your option will hit, then that's not a very good way to think about options, right? Because I mean, that's like you're playing Ice Climbers and you're saying, I'm going to grab because if it hits, I'll wobble them, but not like, we want to talk about what's the likelihood of it hitting. So watch this clip again. Do you feel that that grab was a good idea?
Well, I guess looking at it, if like the Sheik were to do a double jump or drift back harder, that grab could whiff and like lead into me.
Honestly, even without drifting back harder, it's just that the Sheik dashed into your grab, right? Do you see what I mean?
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
So now, if you told me, now here would be a very high level explanation. I shielded to make sure I didn't get hit by Sheik's fair. I saw how far she landed, and then I reacted to that, and I predicted that she would run forward. Then that would be like a valid explanation for why you would shield to not get hit by aerial, and then grab to beat the empty hop run up grab, right? But if that's not what you're thinking, then do you kind of see why that wasn't like really a reasonable set of options?
Yeah.
So what we're realizing then is you have to think about things from the opponent's perspective, not your own. You can't say, I'm going to grab because if it hits, it's good. You have to say, I'm going to grab because I thought Sheik would run up grab there. Does this make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So then, honestly speaking, do you feel like that's what you were thinking about in this situation? Like, do you think you were reading that the Sheik would run up grab you, or do you think you were just like panicking, let me grab because we're close together?
I think I was in that situation probably panicking because the Sheik's in the air and I was just landing from my nair, so I held up shield. And then I guess the situation I was hoping for is probably some aerial, and then I could just get a shield grab.
Yeah, exactly. So suddenly we see that maybe even though this grab hit, that's not actually a good reason, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay for the reasons not to be good because at least you're being honest with yourself. So, let's say you were analyzing your own gameplay or someone else was. They might see this grab hit and go, okay, word, you got the grab and not even stop here. But what I want you to do is start thinking about the game in terms of your opponent's options and thinking about why something's good or bad. Does this all make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. So, if you could watch this again and be honest with yourself, you might be like, I don't like my decision there. Or you could learn from your decision and go, hey, it worked. Let me think about why it worked. And then you might conclude, oh, I see why Sheik would want to run up grab because they think I'm going to hold shield. So now this option makes more sense. Does this kind of all come together now?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it makes way more sense when you think about the game this way, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I want you to kind of take this perspective, this idea of looking at the opponent, thinking about what they want to do, and this would be a good example of a game plan. So I think shielding because you landed when Sheik is airborne makes total sense as part of your game plan, right? Yeah, that would be an aspect of your game plan. And then the next part of your game plan could be, okay, now that I've shielded while she jumped, I should react to which way she drifts. And then maybe the next part of your game plan is, okay, if she drifts in, I have to play the mix-up of what happens when she aerials my shield, right? Or doesn't aerial my shield. If she drifts out, you have to play the mix-up of, okay, now that I've reacted to her drifting out and falling, do I have time to do something? If she's going to grab, can she bait me into doing something, etc.?
Yeah.
Okay, so does this all come together?
Yeah, that all makes sense. Yeah, I'm thinking of it now.
Yeah. So you see, suddenly, we now have a pretty basic game plan, and obviously we haven't delved into all the options, and we won't have time to now. That's kind of what you should do on your own time.
Yeah.
But we have the idea of, okay, I'm landing, she's jumping. What's my response if she does this? What's my response if she does that? And suddenly you're going to be recognizing this situation all the time. Oh, I landed, she jumped, what do I do? And suddenly that happens every single time you play a Sheik. You'll be a lot better at it. Make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So even that first situation, we can just change your whole perspective on it, and we can try to apply that to other parts of the game. Okay, so let's talk about your punish game, since you wanted to talk about that. Does up throw, up tilt combo at the percent you grabbed in? And if you don't know, it's okay to not know.
I don't know. I know it's like around some percentage, but the frame windows for like the true punish are tight. That's all I know.
So Cardano has a thread on this. I can go ahead and
link you. I know it. Perfect class mark.
But I will link you the exact part so that you have it. By the way, when Cardano did the testing, I don't think he knew about ports. So he didn't know. Do you know about how ports affect punish game?
You get one extra frame.
Yes. So if you are a port closer to 4, you can actually combo at an earlier percent. I'll go ahead and link you. I believe that when Cardano tested this, he didn't know about that. But on the ports he tested, it starts comboing at 22%.
Okay.
So very useful to know, because if you knew that, you may not have upthrown. You might have downthrown and gone for a tech chase. You might have, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Another aspect of that is that, if you are going to upthrow, you might also want to consider that, at this percent, it might be a mix-up between reading their jump versus just comboing them. So if these are all thoughts you had, then you can make more informed decisions.
That makes sense.
Yeah, awesome. So I think you upthrow up tilted. Do you remember what happened after the up tilt hit?
I tried to do another one and it doesn't hit.
Okay. And why doesn't it hit?
He jumps out.
Aha. So now that up tilt could have hit if the Sheik didn't jump, right? So maybe some percentage of the time you should up tilt twice, and maybe some percentage of the time you should read the double jump.
Yeah.
Also, if Sheik is smart, they will double jump and waveland on the top platform, and you won't get a follow up at all, even if you read their jump. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does.
But the Sheik, did you notice where they jumped to?
Side platform.
Aha! And if they jump to side platform, that's an easy rising tip or fair, and then they have no jump. And then you go fair, fair, forward smash, or fair, fair, shield drop, fair, fair, down air. Some combo that I'm sure you Marth mains do. But, yeah. But yeah, Sheik without a jump above a side platform, that's easy, right?
Yeah.
So that's a lot to think about. And, maybe that changes your risk reward on Yoshi's compared to Dreamland, compared to FD, where there's no platforms. And these are all things I think I want to encourage you to think about for your punish game. So if that sounds good, let's continue. But I want you to really frame your punish game with this framework whenever you can. Sound good?
Yeah.
Cool.
Sounds good.
So let's look at the next part. So you see Sheik on the platform, and you decide jumping under Sheik is good. I think that's a great idea. Sheik's double jumping, I'm going to jump under her. So what ended up happening when you did that?
Sheik just ran forward.
Yeah, and your up air kind of didn't work, right?
It didn't cover, it just like was going too forward, right? Like the drifting
Yeah.
and
So,
things like that.
but even if you didn't go so far forward, what would it have covered?
Uh, Sheik standing still.
Aha. So the question is she going to land from her needle and just stand there until you up air her?
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not, right? So you know this consciously. We both know this. So then the question is, why would you do that in game? Let's try to again. Hopefully you notice the root of every. I want all our questions and answers to be rooted towards why would I do this? How can I change it? How do I make sure this doesn't happen? Right. So why would you go for that up air if you know that it can't hit if she stands still? What's the missing piece of information that caused you to do that?
Well, I just don't know what I want to do, right? So panic option to get closer and hit them, maybe, or like
yeah, maybe you didn't even think about it. Maybe you just said, my combo didn't work. I guess I'm gonna go hit you now.
I think my game plan is like, okay, Sheik's on the side platform, and when Sheik's standing there and I hit Sheik and keep Sheik in the air, that's pretty good as well.
Okay, so that's your game plan. Your game plan is I recognize Sheik's on the platform, and I recognize I want to keep her there with my aerials, right?
Yeah, I want to like keep her in the air. Like
so
by doing a approaching up air, like, and I can hit Sheik in the air. Like, there's just more room for like a punish in that situation.
So that is a game plan, but it was a bad game plan for here because there's one missing piece of information in that game plan.
What is she gonna do in this situation?
Well, I guess there's two then. One is what's she gonna do, but two is, do I have time to do this?
Yeah.
So, Melee kind of is made up of several variables if you wanted to look at it very technically. If you were to program like into a computer, what the game state of Melee is, you'd have a couple things. You'd have percent, you'd have stocks, you'd have position, and you'd have frame advantage. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I might be missing some, but I think that gets the gist of it. So if your assessment of a situation does not include all of those things, then you're missing an important variable. So in this case, I'd say you weren't considering frame advantage or the amount of time you have to do something, right? So watching this again, Sheik is clearly going to land before you have time to do a delayed up air.
Yeah.
Does this make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So do you think if we took you back to the game, excuse me, 1 second. Do you think you could have known that or recognized that? Or do you think that there was some aspect of Marth or Sheik, like game physics wise, that made you think you had time? Like, do you think you just didn't even think about it, and watching it now it's super obvious that you wouldn't have had time? Or do
I think I just didn't think about it because like I saw the Sheik jump and it's like, okay, I'm gonna try and follow them because they use their double jump.
Okay, but do you think watching it now, that seeing that double jump timing and seeing that up tilt timing, it's clear to you that you don't have time to do that up air, or no?
Yeah, seeing it now, it's very clear.
But I don't mean afterwards. I mean beforehand, right? So I want you to, from the moment the Sheik double jumps and you whiff your up tilt, can you tell that you don't have time to do that up air or no?
No, I can't.
Okay, so that's the important part. Because in retrospect, it's really easy. You see, oh, it missed, right?
Yeah.
But what I want you to be able to do is based on knowing how high Sheik's double jump goes and how long it takes Marth to do that up air after the whiffed up tilt, you should already know if that's a reasonable option or not. So do you see the difference in that type of assessment?
Yeah.
Because it's not enough to know afterwards. I mean, it's good to learn from it afterwards, but in the moment, that's not enough. So for us to somehow know that you don't have time, what variables do we have to understand? We have to understand Sheik's double jump, how high it goes, her fall speed, we have to know the lag on Marth's up tilt, and then we have to know how long it takes you to set up an option, right? So watching this clip again, I want you to look at the game physics part of it. Is there some aspect of it that you feel like you might not have understood? And we can watch it over and over. In fact, I encourage you to pull this up on YouTube. I'll link you. Here. Pull it up on YouTube. Watch it over and over for yourself. And I want you to, because do you agree that if you recognized all those variables, you could have made that call ahead of time?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah, so that means one of those variables must be missing. So I want you to watch it and see if anything seems off. Oh shit, I didn't realize how laggy up tilt was. Or, oh man, Sheik's double jump goes less high than I thought. Or wow, she touched the ground faster than I thought. Or wow,
setting up fell a lot faster than I would imagine.
Okay. So now we've identified something really important, which is game physics. So one of the most important reasons most people are not good at Melee is because they don't understand the physics of the game in some sense. So this is actually one of my most common topics in lessons. I think the first time I teach someone, because essentially your brain already has a simulation of the game going on, right? Like whether you realize it or not, your brain has some expectation for how fast or slow Sheik will fall, right?
Yeah.
So if you have that and then you watch the match and what happens in the match doesn't match what happens in your brain, the ideal learner would watch that on video and then their brain would be like, wait, what the fuck? How did Sheik land so quickly? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I've always heard the idea is like you should watch so much Melee that you can play neutral interactions in your head.
Yeah, it would be absolutely. But that would require you to A, understand how the characters function, but B, it requires you to be a very active watcher. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So even when you're not really trying to analyze Melee, like let's just say you're casually chilling in bed watching a stream. If you really want to improve at Melee, your brain should still be on enough to notice things like, wait, that didn't go the way I thought it would. Mm-hmm. Does this seem feasible or doable?
Yeah, it seems like hard, but it seems doable.
Yeah, so why does it seem hard? I'm curious.
I feel like, I don't know, I just always shut my brain off when I watch Melee.
Yeah, as many people do.
It's like actively watching.
So like imagine if every time you ever watched or played Melee since the day you started, you just had a very passive like a passive check. Anytime anything happened that seemed different than how you thought it would, you noticed it. Mm-hmm. And that's the only change from the beginning of your career till now. You'd probably view the game very differently than you currently do, right?
I'd be so sick.
Yeah. So that's the power of being an active watcher. Do you play?
I've watched so much Melee.
Yeah, like so much. Have you played MOBAs before? Are you familiar with them?
I used to play StarCraft and I used to play a lot of League of Legends.
Okay, so League. So I actually have a great League example. So when I was learning League, my first summer learning it, I watched lots of streams because I had no school and I had nothing to do. So, and I couldn't play League though because my internet was too bad at home. So every stream I ever watched, and I played AD carry at the time, I would watch like Afromu or something, and every time he was in laning phase and he went to CS, my brain would just actively CS while he CS'd, even if nothing else was going on. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine myself trying to click the minion right when he clicked it. So you can imagine that after a summer of doing this, even without playing a League a single time, I was much better at CSing by the end of the summer.
Yeah.
So that type of thing, have you ever done anything like that before?
No, I haven't.
Do you see how valuable that is?
Yeah. I guess like my approach to the game was always just like textile spamming.
Uh-huh.
And probably not the the best way to play it, but like that makes a lot of sense about like how when you think about that and like you build like the flow in your own mind.
Yeah, because you're essentially every time you experience the game in any form is a chance to improve, ingrain how the game works, etc. So why waste that? It doesn't even require you to think that hard. It just requires you to have that brain switch turned to on instead of off.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. So what we're going to do is train you to be an active watcher. And for League, every time you watch League, even in other games, I want you to have your brain on because it's just practice. It's practicing being mindful and paying attention. So in this case, you watch that clip again and you go, wait, how the fuck did Sheik land so fast? You go back and that's where, you compare your brain to what you see on screen and you rewrite it. You go, okay, brain, you were wrong about this. Let me rewrite the variable in my head that says this is how fast Sheik falls. And, if you were a computer, you would just input the number. For human beings, you have to intuit the speed in some sense, right?
Yeah.
But now you do that, and now every time Sheik ever falls in the air, you're going to be a lot better at judging it, and suddenly all your decisions are going to be better. Because that game plan you had of let me get under her, you can still do that game plan, but you're going to do it in a way more informed fashion. Mm-hmm. So do you see kind of A, how important this is, B, like how it would have fixed this problem? And then I guess let's start with those two. Does this all kind of make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Wonderful.
I guess like I've just always approached games as like a more spamming situations kind of thing.
Okay, so like what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean like the first game I played competitively was like StarCraft.
Okay.
And that game was just like pure textile execution for a long time.
Yeah, I mean you can't even play if you can't know the basics.
Yeah, like getting to like masters in that game was just like, oh, can I just build units as fast as possible?
Sure.
And things like that. So I've never really thought of like that approach to like thinking of like the more active.
Mm-hmm. But even a game like that, if every time you watch StarCraft, you were actively noticing things that differed. For example, like I don't know, even something simple like I don't know anything about StarCraft, but I'm imagining that like when you're doing many things at once, you have to switch which part of the screen you're looking at, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even something as simple as if I was watching a StarCraft stream and I was a noob and I was like, oh, at this part of the transition from this build to this build, I never look at that part of the screen. And if I was just actively watching, I'd notice like, wait, I never look there. And that would be like a disparity. It would stand out to me. And then I'd be like, oh, let me change that. And sometimes even a simple change like that could make you a way better player, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like, and you know, I don't know anything about StarCraft, but even just knowing where to look on the screen could be a huge improvement.
Yeah.
So yeah, in this case, yeah, just noticing when Sheik falls. And you know, let's go back. Now that you know how fast Sheik falls, I'm going to replay it from the beginning. Come up with a more reasonable answer than super delayed up air for me. Let's watch it one more time. What do you think you could have done there?
What do I think I could have done there?
Yeah, and I can play it again if you need me to.
I mean, like, yeah, let's watch it one more time.
Sure. As many times as you need.
Like, assuming I did that second up tilt, right?
Yeah, assuming you did the second up tilt, you see Sheik double jump.
Well, like, one thing is, like, maybe, like, even, like, throwing a tilt, which would be more of a read of, like, the idea of, like, the Sheik is going to come straight down from the platform. Like, right there.
Well, so that's thinking very far ahead. You're assuming Sheik is going to land and then run off, right?
Well, the first thought I had was just, like, wait and try and react to what Sheik does in this situation.
Ah, okay. So you're like, but let's say you just wait and try to react. Sheik doesn't have to do anything reactable, right? She can just land on the platform and then do something, right?
Yeah.
So let's take a step back. I think you're missing one piece of information, which is, did you have enough time to even challenge Sheik on the platform after whiffing that up tilt? Because I'm not saying that challenging her is bad. I'm just saying maybe a super delayed overshot up air is going to take too long, right?
Yeah.
But do you feel like watching this, Marth even had time to challenge Sheik before she landed, or no? So let's watch it again. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you had short hop nared forward immediately. Do you think that would have hit Sheik? Or short hop forward even?
Can you pause it like right?
It's really hard for me to pause, so if you want to replay it perfectly, just open it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
I can pause it, but it's not going to be right when you want me to.
I can do that then.
Yeah. And also, Damien's been pointing out the whole time, I don't know if you read it, but there's a useful thing to notice that you didn't up tilt very quickly the second time, so that also would give you more time. But yeah, go ahead and watch it a couple times and tell me what you think.
Oh, yeah, I think like I could have hit Sheik.
Yeah, right. You
like,
probably
up there. If I instant on instant any instant aerial, because by the time Sheik lands, like my jump is like kind of like in the range where an aerial would come out and hit Sheik.
Yeah, so especially if you did the second up tilt a little faster and then moved out of it faster. Also, is it clear to you that you didn't up tilt that quickly or no?
Yeah, no, I think when I was watching this VOD again, I was like, oh, I'm actually moving really slowly.
So if you think about it like that, you could have maybe spaced a short hop tipper fair to catch the landing, or a nair underneath Sheik, because even if Sheik gets her shield up, it's pretty hard for her to punish nair with a shield drop, because it has the 2 hits and you're at such low percent. And then let's say you really, really didn't feel like you had time. You could always dash under her and short hop, but like not go so far in, right? Like you might as well stay in the center and threaten with fair, right? Cool. So now watching it for the millionth time, hopefully, we didn't actually go over this, but I want you to tell me, watching it now, how does Sheik's fall speed look to you? Does it look like, oh, that's exactly how I thought it would happen, or does it still look weird?
It feels a lot more natural now that I've looked at it like 10 times.
Also, if it ever doesn't feel natural in full speed, I highly recommend going in slow-mo first. Because sometimes in full speed, it's really not going to make sense, especially for some of the harder things in the game. So feel free to watch it in 0.25, 0.5, whatever you need. And I don't think that this is just like a lower level player thing. I think even the best players in the world, a lot of their improvements could be made just through understanding how mechanics of the game work better.
Mm-hmm.
So don't for a second think that this will ever stop being relevant, you know? Because even me, like sometimes I'm playing Melee and I'm like, haven't you even heard top players say, "Oh, I thought I had time for that," or "I can't believe you hit me first there," or something like that?
Yeah, I've seen top players literally play situations in like 0.5 speed before,
Uh-huh.
like when they're like getting coached. So I believe it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like sometimes even I'm playing the game and I'm like, wait, shit, I can't believe that happened. And that phrase of like, I can't believe that or I didn't expect that just shows that my understanding of the game isn't quite adjusted correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I highly recommend you do that anytime something seems off. So let's go back now. Let's continue watching. And now, hopefully, when you watch, all these decisions will look extremely different to you than they did before. I'm actually curious. So when you watch, you know, your first shield after the nair, or the grab, or the double up tilt, or the super delayed up air, do you kind of see how think about those situations differently than you did when you first watched it?
Yeah, that up tilt looks really bad. I mean, the up air looks really bad when
Yeah,
I
the
see
up
it.
air looks so bad now that we've talked about it. And even the grab, it doesn't look bad, but it's like, wait, was I really expecting that? Or, you know, do you
It
see
just
what I
looks
mean?
like a 50-50 that it kind of worked
Yeah,
for
and
that
it's like,
grab too.
even then, they have so many options. She didn't even have to go for the grab. She could have done anything, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't make it bad, but it really makes you think, wait, was I really reading him or is that just kind of random, right?
Yeah, you can see how like slow the second up tilt is too.
Yeah, yeah. So hopefully you're saying like the way you need to think about these situations is very different. Um, so
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about how you got grabbed after the up air. What do you think of that?
Um, what do I think of it? Well, the Sheik is coming towards me, and I kind of just walked forward
Uh
when I
huh.
can see that the Sheik is like actually like approaching me at this point.
Uh huh. So why do you? Obviously, if I asked you now, would you just kind of walk forward and not worry if you got grabbed or not? That would be a kind of risky decision from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why do you think you did this? Because you know you probably don't think that's the best decision ever, right?
Probably just wanted to run in and fair him or something.
Okay, so you were just thinking
Start
like I want to
swinging.
go hit him, right?
Yeah, or maybe like go for like just something to try and hit him basically.
Yeah, yeah. So then the question is,
It's like
again,
I panicked because my option didn't work. So now what's my
yeah.
plan?
So you
Like
it's
when
you
Sheik
just
has this
don't have a
advantage.
plan. So what's the first
Yeah.
step? Again, position, frame advantage, percent, stock.
Mm-hmm.
So you know stocks are even, percent's pretty even. Stage position's relevant here, but not the biggest problem. So really, what we want to look at is where are you relative to each other, and how much time do you have relative to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So when I watch this clip, and I'll watch it right now, I would say you were actionable very slightly before Sheik.
Mm-hmm.
Because you up aired and landed far before Sheik landed, but Sheik has 4 frames of lag relative to your 7 on up air. Does that seem
Mm-hmm.
reasonable?
Yeah.
When you watch this, do you feel like Marth could have moved first or no?
Yeah, I definitely think that I could have done something else. See that.
Well,
And
do
it's
you feel
like,
like you could move before Sheik did though?
yeah.
Okay. So if we're about that far apart and Marth can move what very slightly before Sheik, so then we
Mm-hmm.
can think about what options are reasonable. You know, maybe dash to the left, maybe turn around and short hop in place, maybe dash to the right, you know, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, right?
Yeah.
Um, but the key here is regardless of what you think is the best option, while you up aired, you had to notice that Sheik ran off the platform.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not super sure that you noticed that Sheik ran off the platform while up airing. You just kind of knew that Sheik, it felt to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it felt like Sheik kind of just knew you were on, or you kind of just knew Sheik was on the left side.
Yeah.
Does that, so what do you think?
What I think, trying to think how I would react to that situation,
Well, do you
like right
think you
now.
did react to Sheik running off, or just to Sheik being to the left of you? And I'm
I
just
think I just
genuinely
reacted to
curious.
she being to the left of me,
Uh huh.
like basically like, oh, my move hit. Now I'm outside of the stage, and she has like more center. So like,
Yeah, so you're just like, she's to the left. I kind of want to move that way and hit her, right?
mm-hmm.
So why do you think you didn't actually react to exactly what Sheik did? So this leads me to something else I like talking about a lot. But what is the ideal? So ideally, as you do that up air, you notice Sheik dashes to the left, and then you make an informed decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why do you think that's probably not what happened?
I think in this set, I felt like I was autopiloting here.
Uh huh.
Like that's what I said earlier. Like I just don't think I was like actually processing things, and I was just kind of going with like my instant reaction or whatever. So it's like, oh, I overshot. It's like, let's go back in and hit.
Aha, okay. So let's say you're autopiloting then, okay? And let's say I'm autopiloting. If I'm autopiloting, personally, I would still notice that Sheik ran off the platform and do something relevant. But maybe for you, that requires you to be playing well or to be focused, right? So how do we make that jump from your level of, if I'm autopiloting, I'm not even noticing this, to my level of, even if I'm autopiloting, I would at least notice that? What's the distinction?
Knowing the situations and having your autopilot default to, like, kind of recognizing the situation.
So let's say recognizing the situation. We might recognize, okay, I'm landing in the corner as Sheik lands on the platform. And we might be able to prime ourselves for potential options, right? So just even priming yourself will help you react, right? So what are some things Sheik might do? Sheik might run off. Sheik might drop straight down. Sheik might run to the right and then attack you, right? And then she might also stand still on the platform. I feel like those are maybe the most reasonable options for her.
Yeah.
So already, if you're thinking ahead and recognizing, your brain is at least primed for one of those things to happen, right? So, one, do you see how much that would help to even have those options on your mind?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the first step. But the second step is, do you think your eyes were on Sheik while you were doing that up air?
While I was doing that up air?
Yeah. Because you clearly knew Sheik was to the left of you.
Yeah.
So where do you think your eyes were on, and at what point do you think you stopped noticing things? Because if your eyes were on her the whole time, you would have noticed she dashed, right?
I think when my up air didn't hit, probably after that interaction didn't pan out as I thought, I probably lost and was looking at myself or not looking at
that makes sense.
the Sheik.
So maybe what you could do instead is let me do a quick reaction point talk. Have you ever heard me talk about reaction points?
No, but I've heard about you talking about it.
Yes, the classic. You've heard me talking about it, or heard of me talking about it. So,
yeah.
For reference, your reaction time within Melee is going to be about 15 frames. That number is not super important for you to memorize, but it's just to reference it. And the reason this is important is because if you wanted to make the best decision you could possibly make, you can at most make that decision with information available 15 frames or longer ago on your mind. Does that make sense? So if something happened like 5 frames ago, there's no way you could take it into account.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But if it happened 15 frames ago, you can take it into account, right? So what this means is every time you make any decision or about to do something, you should take into account at least the last thing you saw, which is 15 frames ago. So in the case of up air, just to give you some numbers, up air has 7 frames of lag. So if it has 7 frames of lag, then 8 frames before you land, you want to be looking at Sheik and making sure you see what's happening before deciding what to do out of that up air. Does this conceptually make sense?
How can you think that fast, though?
Aha, so it's not like I'm telling myself, okay, 15 frames. What I do is just train my eyes to look at a certain spot while I play. And then you're like, oh, well, how do you come up with the answer then once you've seen it? It's like, well, I've thought of all the answers ahead of time, right? So that goes back to what you said about recognize the situation and what we talked about priming yourself. Because no, I don't think of every answer on the fly every new time. It's that I've been in the situations 10,000 times so I can think of them much faster.
It's kind of like how chess openings play out. Where
exactly.
Like
you don't need to think about your chess openings because you know them, right? And
Melee, you have, like, reactions to certain placements in certain ports.
Exactly. But now in Melee, obviously, that's happening way faster. But on a fundamental level, it's not that different. And the added part is, in chess, you might have, a billion options to think about at any time. In Melee, at any given point, you only have maybe 3 to 5 really to think about. Now, if you don't know what those 3 to 5 are, you're not going to even begin to be able to think about it. But if you prime yourself and recognize, which we talked about earlier, then picking between those might not be hard, especially if you've practiced it a ton of times. And then especially if you've been an active watcher and learner all the times you've watched other Mars play. And then this goes back and back and back until you realize, if I've been improving the right way, thinking that fast suddenly isn't really a challenge anymore. Does this all make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
how does building this kind of thing, like while playing friendlies and things like that, happen too? you know, like, because people say like, oh, like when you play friendlies to like recognize situations and things like that, right? Like, how do you feel? Like, do you process scenarios where you didn't have the right answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, when I'm playing, if I realize, like, wait, that I like my brain didn't come up with something good, or I at
Yeah.
least realize that what I did didn't seem good, but I don't know why, I might try to
Hmm.
remember that situation for later and then later look into it.
I
And
guess that's why having your VODs are
yeah,
OP.
that's one reason having your VODs is important, and that's why improving your memory of Smash is very important, because you're not going to
Hmm.
have a VOD of every match you played, and even if you did, it would be extremely inefficient to watch every single one, right? So that
Yeah.
brings me to another point, which I don't think we should go into because that also requires like an hour of talking. But
Yeah.
essentially, you have to build your Smash memory, and the easiest
Yeah.
way for me to describe how to build it is be an active watcher, be an active thinker,
Uh huh.
because building your memory will help you improve on these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, does that kind of make sense for how you would approach improving that in friendlies?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So, in the context of reaction points, what I would say is when you input that up air and fastball, you should train yourself to look at the opponent when you. So you know how you practice your tech skill.
Yeah.
Do you practice looking at another character while you do that tech skill?
Yeah. I try and constantly remind myself to not look at my character and focus on the other
Uh
character.
huh. So what you do then is, let's say you're practicing a shuffle up air. I want you to look at a Sheik on a platform while you do the up air, and then imagine yourself reacting right before you hit the ground to the last thing you saw. And then imagine and this is what shadowboxing really is. And it's like, oh, if she dashed left, I'm gonna do this. But if I imagine her dashing right, here's what I would do instead.
Mm-hmm.
Does this make sense?
Yeah. So you're playing out fake scenarios in your
Yeah, and
head.
that's what shadowboxing really is. But what I want you to do, more importantly than just playing out 100 fake scenarios, is training yourself to look at them and react while you do it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do that up air, every single time for the rest of your career, when you do an up air and fastball, right before you land, I want you to look at them and make sure you have on your mind what you want to do the instant your up air ends.
Mm-hmm.
Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Do you? Okay, so then the second part is, do you see how you can do that pretty consistently?
Yeah, I do.
Like, even if you didn't make the best decision, you could always at least make a decision based off what you saw right before you up aired, right?
And then based on like the decisions I make and how they play out, like it kind of reinforces
Yeah,
things
and then
too,
you can
right?
learn from that. You can brainstorm ahead of time, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the important thing here is every single time you up air or fair or nair, there's literally no reason not to look at the opponent, react, and then choose something.
Mm-hmm.
Also, some similar situations. You know how I said it's about 15 frames?
Yeah.
So if we look at Marth's wave dash, for example, that takes 14 frames. Did you know that? I don't know how familiar you are. With
No, I don't know my frame data.
Okay, so jump squat's 4 frames, waveland lag is 10 frames.
Uh-huh.
So 14 frames. So if Marth's wave dash is 14 frames and your reaction time is somewhere in the realm of 14, 15, 16, depending on the person, then every single time you wave dash, if you look at them like right before you press X or Y to wave dash, you can
Yeah.
make an informed decision post wave dash that's based on what you saw right before you wave dashed.
Mm-hmm.
So do you see why that's feasible?
Yeah, because it's like basically the same amount
It
of
lines
frames to
up,
react.
right?
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, how can you think that fast? And it's like, again, you learn to look at them first, and then you do your brainstorming, and eventually you learn the situations.
Mm-hmm.
So a common Marth option might be wave dash forward smash or wave dash down tilt, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how many Marths, and you might not have thought of this before, but I notice this all the time, when they wave dash down tilt, they don't look at the situation before they wave dash. They kind of pre-program wave dash down tilt as one option, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for example, you might tell me my down tilt spacing is bad, and I might say you just didn't react before you wave dash to decide whether or not down tilt was a good option.
Yeah.
And those are two extremely different perspectives on the exact same mistake.
It's like basically what you're saying is like I considered the option to be wave dash down tilt instead of wave dash and then down tilt.
Exactly. And like Damien said, wave dash down tilt is like one move, but it's actually two moves. So
yeah.
And now, of course, you might still decide, given the information you have, that down tilting is exactly what you want to do. And that's probably, maybe you wave dash in the first place for the purpose of down tilting. But, if you weren't even looking at them, then you can't even say that wave dash down tilting was a reasonable choice. Because maybe you'll look at Sheik and be like, wait, she's standing exactly a wave dash away. Wave dash down tilt's a horrible option. But you might not even notice that she's standing a wave dash away if you didn't look at her when you messed up the last thing. And you might not have even noticed that if you didn't have a game plan. And then, we go all the way back and you realize you can't make any of these decisions without any of the others, right?
Yeah. And even if, like, I react too late and I wave dash, and it's like, oh, I don't want to commit to a down tilt because it's, like, not in a good timing. So I should, like, try and do something defensive at that moment.
Yeah, you might realize, oh, shit, I need to shield, because the Sheik is going to F-tilt me out of this. Or, oh shit, I need to dash instead of down tilt, and that might work out too, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So ultimately, this is all just, how you build your framework for improving at the game, for watching the game, for thinking about the game. And these things will all build upon each other. And it's like any of these that seem overwhelming will become easier as you're able to do more and more of them. And looking at games from this perspective, where you're thinking about, what are my opponent's options? How do the game physics work? What am I reacting to? How do I optimize my usage of this information? All these things are the approach you want to take to actually improve. So does that all make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
It makes sense.
Wonderful. So let's, continue watching. See if anything else interesting happens. So maybe that dash attack, right? When you look at that dash attack, does that stand out to you?
It just seems like, why would I dash attack in that situation?
Right? Just why would you?
Keep that 16% on top of me, like
on the platform.
Yeah, if I whiff, then she can just come down bare if she waits.
More importantly, could that have even hit in any, was there even a way for it to hit?
I don't think so.
Right? So, going back, let's actually talk about it.
Like where it only works if Sheik drifted to the left really hard when she fell, or ran straight left. I don't even know if that could hit.
That might not even hit. But why would that not even work? There's a crucial variable here, which we've talked about.
The frame advantage?
Frame advantage, yeah. Did Sheik even have time to run into that dash attack?
No.
Okay, so the question then is, did you misjudge how much time Sheik had? Or did you overestimate the speed of your dash attack? Or did you just not even think about it?
I don't think I thought about it. I was I probably just misestimated didn't think about how much time Sheik had, and I was like, oh, she can just come down and hit me at this point on the platform, so it's maybe I can catch a fall through.
Yeah, so you kind of just thought about the options based on the position, right?
Yeah.
And was that a bad idea? No, not at all. I think the concept of anti-airing with dash attack is totally reasonable. Maybe not at this exact spacing, I'd say you guys have to be a little further apart, right?
Yeah.
But then you might say, okay, maybe I didn't quite have the right idea. But when you look at it in terms of frame advantage, you realize your idea was awful. But if you look at it strictly in terms of positioning, that's a good concept.
Yeah.
So that's why looking at each of the variables is so important. Looking at it now, do you have any clue if you just thought she had time, or if you just thought dash attack was faster?
I think she was going to come faster down.
Okay, so see, now we look at it from the perspective of the game physics, what's possible. You watch it as an active learner, active watcher, you realize, oh, she couldn't have come down as fast as I thought she could. Does this make sense?
Yeah, I think maybe I thought my dash attack was a little slower too.
Ah, okay. So now see, we're slowly
building I think the hitbox, I thought the hitbox came out earlier than it
Yeah, I understood what you meant, which is, I'm glad you clarified that. So, you know what you can do to build that? Let's talk about this then. So let's say you're watching, or you're playing, or whatever, and something happens that, I forgot to mention this, but let's say, oh shit, Mar's dash attack's not as fast as I think. What's stopping you from booting up the setup, dash attacking a couple times, and ingraining how fast it comes out?
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing, right? And
or even looking at frame data. And
yeah, exactly. Imagine looking at frame data and practicing it, and then that way you can combine your intuition with numbers, and then it's much easier to frame all of this.
One thing Oates did, do you know what Anki is? It's a language learning tool, but it's super optimized flashcards. He would do that to learn frame data for the game.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
It's basically a tool that optimizes repetition and memory.
Ah, that's pretty cool. No, I don't know about that. So
I can show you later.
Yeah, sure. Cool. I'd like to look at it.
Yeah.
So Mars dash attack, by the way, hits on frame 12 to 15. It's active for 4 frames. And I just know that, and it helps me to know that, because I also now I have an idea of what 12 frames looks like, and I know how Mars dash attack looks, and I know what a wave dash looks like, and that's 10 frames of lag, and that's 14 frames for Marth, and suddenly all these numbers, once they start coming together, and I build this intuition, it makes it way easier to have a relative concept of, what does it mean that when Sheik short hop fares to auto cancel it, she fares on the 15th or 16th frame of her being airborne? That doesn't mean anything to you. but it means a lot to me because I also happen to know that's about, the peak of Fox's full hop or something. And like these all mean something to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, this is the perspective I kind of want you to take moving forward. And if you were to watch the rest of this match, I'm sure you would find tons of things. For example, why did you whiff that forward air after the dash attack? You clearly saw that she dash attacked, right?
Yeah.
So how would you explain that to someone else you were trying to teach?
How would I explain that to someone else?
Like, why did that Marth whiff that fair? What was wrong there? What was misunderstood?
I think that in the timing from where the jump and fair came out, like the misunderstood is like where my hitbox would be.
So is that because you thought fair is bigger than it actually is? Is it because you thought Marth would drift farther than he did?
I think I expected the drift to be faster.
The drift to be faster. That's a great wording. So maybe Marth doesn't drift as fast as you think, but you did know that Sheik's dash attack actually goes that far. Mm-hmm. But maybe another Marth player understood Marth's fair perfectly, but they thought Sheik's dash attack didn't go that far.
I probably expected dash attack to go in that range, but not necessarily knowing the exact length in that point.
Yeah. So do you see kind of how assessing each variable of the physics is so important?
Yeah.
So yeah. Let's go ahead and start wrapping up then. I feel like I've pumped you full of information, so giving you anything else is gonna not be helpful for you. So what do you think of all this? How do you feel? What are your thoughts now compared to before the lesson?
I feel like I have to relearn how I look at Melee.
Yeah, and how you look at any game, right?
The game. Yeah. I think like the idea of like even for like the CSing and like thinking about like how they react to that makes a lot of sense.
I love that example because it's such a simple thing. You don't have to think about frame data. You don't have to think about how fast does she fall. You just go, why am I not CSing while I watch this?
I've just always viewed games as like situation grinding. Just because of like my experience with StarCraft when I was younger.
And in some sense they are situation grinding, but if you can't even recognize the situation or you don't know how, right? Like there's steps, CSing is a situation, but you still have to learn the execution of it.
Yeah. I guess like execution test grinding and things like that, like execution grinding, but no, that makes sense.
Wonderful. I'm glad. Do you have any, lingering thoughts or questions or anything like that?
And I took some notes before. Let me see if there's anything.
Yeah, if you have any random questions, like I'm happy to answer them. Obviously, not everything will be like something like this.
I feel like the question I have is going to go on, but it's like the idea of like playing the RPS in neutral. Like one thing is like, especially like the Falcon matchup, right? At like earlier percents, like my game plan is, like try and like bait out the Nair and get the CC grab, right?
Sure.
But then like obviously there's the rock paper scissors scenario where it's like is Falcon gonna grab, is Falcon gonna stomp, and then it's like how to approach that like RPS. And like kind of another question I have is like reacting to habits that you notice people doing and like really punishing like habits.
Sure.
I don't know, but those are two separate things.
Yeah. Let's talk about them real quick. So the first thing, well, based on what we talked about today. Hopefully it'll become clear that a question like that, I think you're kind of chunking things into too large of boxes. And if we were to be specific, I might tell you that I would ask you, can you react to Falcon Nair? Can you react to Falcon Stomp? Is it even favorable to try to view it as a guessing game, or should you just play safe around both options? Is the range where he can grab you is not the same range where he can nair you. So I'd encourage you to think about which zones are you playing in. Are you playing close? Are you playing far? Stuff like that. So do you kind of see how like the...
Yeah, that makes sense. Like understanding where I'm in, like what things I'm in danger of at all points, right? Like if I know where like a short hop stomp can hit me, then like I can know that like, okay, like maybe I don't want to be CCing this place.
Yeah,
right? Like, this is a play where like an overshot nair can hit.
But then another thing, and I'll just tell you this, is if he nairs, you can actually, if you react to the startup of the nair, you can always CC or shield by the time the second hit comes out. Purely on reaction. You don't have to guess at all.
Okay.
So that maybe changes the matchup for you again. So let's say you're just dash dancing and you see the nair, hold shield or hold down or hold both. Let's say you're dash dancing and you don't see the nair, put your shield up because you don't want to get stomped.
Yeah.
So suddenly there's no guessing game there. It's just because you now know that because I told you you can react to nair, that improves that situation astronomically, right?
And then if like I see like, oh, they keep approaching, it's like, oh, maybe they grab. If they go back, it's like, okay, I can release my
Yeah,
shield.
yeah, because
Release
like
it to neutral.
the zone where, and maybe why even bother playing in the zone where Nair and Stomp hit you? Why not play a little further, a little closer, so that if he nares at you, you dash under it, and then you just put him in a mix up. Like, why even put yourself at the spacing where those options are on the board, on the table?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. So it's really changing your perspective on these things that I think will carry you to that next level and really get you on the track to improvement. Cool. So let's go ahead and wrap up. You can still message me about habits if you want, but I think you have so many things to work on that let's deal with those. If you want to follow up at all, ask me about any situations. Also, if you're in my Discord, ask people in the Discord. Like, people who are in the Discord have heard me talk about this a billion times. They kind of know the spiel. So just being a part of that community and asking questions, I think, will be helpful. So feel free to do that, and I'll be happy to help. Okay, awesome. Any final thoughts? Or are we good to wrap up?
We're good. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was helpful.
We talked about 14 seconds of gameplay.
Yeah, but those 14 seconds will... If you could master every single thing I said, like truly master it, you would be a top 10 player right now.
I know.
Because you can hopefully apply those to any situation, So I wish you luck on your journey. And if you have questions about specific things, like I said, feel free to link me or timestamp me, and I can help you come up with solutions. Okay.
Thanks, Sammy.
Yeah, no problem, Ashkon.
I'm gonna be sick, dude.
Yeah, I'm glad. I hope you're motivated.
Fuck some nerds up.
Hell yeah, dude.
I've been super motivated lately.
That's it. I'm happy to hear it. I love motivation. All right. Have a great night.
Okay. See ya.
Yep. See ya. Say bye to the stream.
Bye. Tell Sleepy I say bye.
Okay. Bye.
See ya.
Okay, guys. So let's wrap that up. Hopefully you guys maybe learned something. If you hadn't heard me talk about that before, if you have heard me talk about it, thank you for listening to me talk about it for probably the millionth time in your life. I'm down to do any sort of Q&A. I'll wait maybe a minute or two if people have questions about Patreon, Discord, Melee, anything really. I'm happy to talk about. And if not, then I'll just wrap up. Yeah, Ashkon has departed. So I'll give it another maybe 30 seconds or a minute. But if nobody has anything, then just thank you for watching and hope it was enjoyable. Oh, Ashkon's here. Scruffy is downstairs. He will not be here. Should you play Belty? It's a very fun game. I think it's kind of shitty at the top level, but that's most games. Scruffy will not be on stream. Oh, that's hype, Ashkon. Thanks for the YouTube video. Yeah, no problem. I think the YouTube video is very good. I assume you're talking about the Rev one, but I'm not sure. Am I going to any tournaments or events? Highly unlikely. I'm not too motivated to play the game in any competitive level. Versus Puff as Marth. How do you play the corner? What should you mix up? Do you mean with Marth in center or Marth in the corner? How do you deal with maybe make terms simpler? I think that anyone is perfectly capable of being logical. If you don't know how to think logically, then I would help them learn to. I don't think that anything I'm saying is out of anyone's grasp at all. I just think it's more about training the way you think. I think that people view things in a very as if oh, you could do this, I can't do this, or talent or something, but it's these are all words that we can all understand, and we can break it down to even watch it in 0.25 speed and train your brain. Training your brain is kind of the name of the game. Ashkon, I'm hype. I definitely think you've got this. I'm glad you're motivated. Marth in the corner. So if Marth's in the corner and then Puff has you in the center, you just gotta focus on getting out of the corner. I don't think it obviously depends on frame advantage, just depends on exact position. But I'd say don't do anything that'll get you killed. I would prioritize thinking about what gets me killed here. Rest, getting bared off stage, stuff like that. I'd focus on full jumping to platforms. I'd focus on getting through her. Don't be predictable with it, but it's just how do I not die? Your priority in the corner is not to find a way to hit them. Do I always wear pajama pants for my lessons? Oh, hey, Magi. Yeah, I'm glad I saw your comment, but I didn't want to interrupt the lesson. Not always. Sometimes I wear other pajama. Well, just pajama pants. Yeah, in general, yes, definitely. I'm not. Sometimes I wear gym clothes if I'm about to go straight to the gym. No, I'm never really in the tank top unless it's gym time. How can Marth reliably cover chic runoff fair or needles platforms? I mean, you either do a mix-up when she lands or you challenge her beforehand. That's like the answer to pretty much every question. It's like, or you get under it beforehand. So you either get under it in the first place and then you can just hit her. You challenge her in the middle with like a nair or something, or you wait till afterwards and then you threaten her with some sort of mix-up. Hey Rob, how's it going? Yeah, it's definitely right, Magi. I'm big chillin'. I have to teach like all day sometimes, so there's no point changing. Taking game off HBox Puff. I think Laud is probably trying really hard to get better at the matchup, and HBox is probably not trying really hard to get better at the matchup. So it means something kind of, but probably not really. And if HBox ever tried, he would probably 3-stock every peach. Maybe that's a little mean, but like HBox is really good, and he doesn't try to get better at the matchup at all. But I mean, nobody's pushed him to that point. So I mean, what Laud did by taking a game is the first step, you know? People got to take games first before he cares about doing stuff. Yeah, definitely the real talk. I think HBox is really good, so. Let's see if there's anything else. I'm happy to answer. Let's see. Also, not all my lessons are always so, dense, I guess I would say. A lot of my students are already familiar with these concepts. So there's a lot more melee-specific talk, I guess I'd say. So if you want to see any of that, I mean, Patreon's the place. I upload videos very frequently. I have hundreds of videos, so I encourage people to check it out. I think more streams like this in the future. So I will do streams like this if I have the time. Lessons keep me really busy already. It's really exhausting talking about Melee all day. But I do have goals, so if you see... If I get 250 right up here, 250 content consumers, so $5 patrons, I'll do one of these lessons again in September. I'm thinking if I can ever get up to 350 at the beginning of a month, I'll do 2 of these that month. I would like these to be consistent, but it's pretty hard to schedule around so many lessons, so I would like to, but I definitely need to feel like it's worth it. Yeah. And I mean, if you have questions anytime, you can feel free to ask me. It's not just like a stream thing. I'm always answering Melee questions. Like I told Ashkon, my Discord is very useful. Tons of really, really smart players who know a lot are in it, and I'm sure they would be happy to help. Okay, so nobody has any other questions, then I guess I'll be wrapping up. Like I said, I'll give it another little bit, but thank you again for tuning in. Appreciate the support. Hope it was fun. Hope Ashkon's brain doesn't hurt too bad. He seemed slightly overwhelmed, but pretty motivated, which I'm hyped for. Alright, sounds good. Alright, see you guys. Thanks a ton for watching, and I really hope to do this again soon, so I would really appreciate any support, and I really hope you guys learned something from all the videos I have posted, because I really have so many. Alright, I'll see you, Ashkon. Hope you enjoyed it, and like I said, please talk to me, dude. I'd be happy to help, and I'd love to follow up with you. Alright, see you guys.